In North Korea, the worst insult you can give to somebody is telling them that they lost weight. And in North Korea, they do not have the concept or even vocabulary like stress, depression. Because how can you be stressed or depressed in a socialist paradise? Anyone who uses in their text message South Korean words, you have to catch them and send them prison camps. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. So today I'm wearing red dress and there's a reason for it. So in North Korea, we believe that in the beginning of the year, especially January 1st or a few days later, if you wear red, it will bring you a good luck. Maybe red color is considered to be a revolutionary color in the eyes of the regime, so that's why they don't ban it. So people who cannot even afford the whole red clothes, then they at least try to wear red color underwear. So this is one trick that I can share. North Korea doesn't allow religion and any other things to happen. Therefore, people became really superstitious, and this is one of them. And today in this video, I'm going to talk finally about a language difference between North Korea and South Korea. I know a lot of you have asked me what are the differences between North Korean and South Korean, and here it is. Mainly if you can imagine the language difference between American English and British English, right? There's a huge accent gap. But the problem with the Korean difference is not only that, but because of the different system created a lot of different new concepts and language. And that is a challenging part about being a North Korean and going to South Korea learning a new Korean. For instance, the words like diet doesn't exist in North Korea. I mean, everyone is surviving and try to survive through. Who needs a diet other than Kim Jong-un in that country? But whenever I went to South Korea, people were going nuts about diet. Everyone's saying, oh, this is diet food, and what is diet food? And people I realized people telling me oh my god, you are so skinny. And I was so insulted by hearing that. In North Korea, the worst insult you can give to somebody is telling them that they lost weight. That means their family is very poor and they are not in a good place. And being poor is something that people are proud in North Korea. Therefore, pointing out somebody lost their weight is something unthinkable. We usually use that term when we describe pigs or animals, oh, that's a fat pig or that's skinny pig. We don't really use that to describe somebody. But in South Korea, people constantly bombarding me oh, you're so skinny, do you even eat? And how can you tell me that? You're so mean. And this is the harder thing. And the other ones, South Koreans talk about stress and depression all the time. I met my friends and they were constantly telling me, oh, I'm so stressed. My boyfriend didn't call me last time he went out with his friends. And I was what's stress? And in North Korea, they do not have the concept or even vocabulary like stress, depression. Because how can you be stressed or depressed in a socialist paradise? Therefore, they removed complete of that concept. So when I went to South Korea, learning the word stress and depression, it wasn't there was no word to translate it to North Korean. I kind of had to learn the entire concept of stress and depression. And it's not the same thing about gay or lesbian or LGBTQ or transgender. Those things do not exist in the dictionary, and therefore it was very hard to learn new language. Another example is ATM machines. North Korean people do not use banks, And therefore, going to South Korea, they talk to you about ATM machines or checking card, debit card, credit card, and there is no other words in North Korean. I think this is like a very unique case. In a way, after once I understood South Korean, and learning English was a lot easier. Like I know what supermarket is. I know what internet is. In Korean, I know what it is, and in American, I just have to learn how to say differently. But North Korean to South Korean is just, that's not about it. You kind of have to learn about entire culture, background, and concept about it. I think this is what's unique about North Korean. And the other huge difference that I see South Korean and North Korean is that North Koreans are very direct in a way that, sometimes even I am really direct person because I'm a North Korean, but South Koreans are not. So, South Koreans, as a manner, they say, oh, let's grab a coffee or let's go get a meal together someday. And if North Koreans say that, they actually really, really mean it. Then we would call up which day do you meet? And they were like, oh, I just said that as a manner. And I think this kind of people how interact, how direct, all this subtlety is different. But the thing is that right now, the youth of North Korea are going crazy about South Korean and K-pop. I did a video about the Crash Landing on You, the Netflix show. The lady from South Korea took a parachute and landed in the northern part, and she fell in love with a North Korean soldier. And this show, of course, it became an international sensation. A lot of people saw the show here even in America. But that show also got into North Korea. And then North Korea's youth were so obsessed with it, and they were trying to learn these terms from this show. And Kim Jong-un last year around November, he made a special order to the party members and the police, saying that anyone who uses in their text message South Korean words, you have to catch them and send them prison camps. So literally, while this youth walking on the street, police would be standing there and then ask to get a phone from their hands, and then check the text history and what kind of words they used. And the words they can easily know what South Korean is called dear, honey, darling, sweetie. North Koreans are not that sweet. So romantic, being romantic is something looked really, really down upon in North Korean culture. It's not appreciated. The vision thinks being romantic and talking about love is something very shameful, and it's a very capitalist, corrupt thing to do. Therefore, there are no terms to call your lover as honey, darling. And the North Korean youth who saw those terms in South Korean shows, they have started using that words to call their boyfriends darling and honey. And that's how these officials can know they are using South Korean words. I think language for me is so fascinating, how much it reflects also the freedom that society has, and the complexity. Whenever I read the 1984 by George Orwell, it talks about double speak. They try to control the language and words, and that has been the exact case of North Korea, how the regime using these words to control North Korean people's minds. And it is so unbelievable why the North Korean economy has crushed, and people are literally starving to death since the beginning of the country. And the concern for Kim Jong-un is its youth using few words from South Korean show. I think this is why North Korea is so poor. The leaders not worrying about actual real problem. They are trying to crush people and control even in that kind of thing, that banning the youth, not calling their lovers a darling or honey. This also, I think, reminder how free we are. I think people assume that everyone has that right to call their lovers as my love or sweetheart, but in North Korea, even that basic minimum affection is not allowed. I think that's how much the regime is denying our humanity in North Korea. I love calling people like darling and love and in the most sweetest way, because it just reminds me I am so free, and also makes me feel a lot of love and gratitude. I just hope that someday in North Korean people also can use beautiful words to describe each other and share their love to one another. Thank you, my loves. Therefore, I'm very grateful that you have continually watching my shows and supporting me in this. I look forward to seeing you all next time. But however, let me know, as you always do, what you want to see for the next videos. Bye guys.